Lovecraft is kind of a big deal in Japan. His influence is almost inescapable with so many authors dabbling into his work, like Karo Kurimoto of Gwyn Saga fame, Hiyuki Kiyuchi, the creator of Vampire Hunter D, and Junji Ito. Other examples would be Chiaki J. Konaka, the writer of Serial Experiments Lane and Technolize. Probably the most popular example would be Bloodborne, which has many ideas taken directly from Lovecraft. Despite this, adapting or trying to write new material based around Lovecraft's ideas is a daunting one. Lovecraft's writing is often vague and dry at times. He'll often go on and on about the descriptions of pieces of land or creatures. It's also really hard to convey the fear of the unknown when in a visual medium. That hasn't stopped many from trying though, including a little-known author by the name of Go Tanabe. Tanabe was first introduced to the works of Lovecraft in the year 2005 during an unproductive time period in his life. Tanabe stated that he was impressed by characters who lose all hope and appetite for life. It is a common thread in Lovecraft stories that particularly struck with me. Ever since about 2007, he's been attempting to adapt some of Lovecraft's work. Today, I'm going to be specifically focusing on his adaptation of At the Mountains of Madness. Before I start, I wanted to comment on the deluxe edition that Dark Horse has put out. It's probably one of the most gorgeous hardcovers that I've ever laid my eyes on. It has a fantastic cover with silver glittery edges on the paper. It even has a bookmark in it as well. If you ever decide to read this story, make sure you pick up this version. Moving on to the actual story, it's fairly simple with the research team going to Antarctica until things start to get really weird. This is probably where a lot of horror movies find their inspiration, like Alien or The Thing. For me, it really doesn't do anything new since I'm familiar with those types of stories, but it still kept me engaged. I gotta commend Tanabe for translating Lovecraft's cold writing style into this format. It definitely was not an easy task, but I feel like he has paid really good attention to every nook and cranny of the original source material. The atmosphere of it feels appropriately moody and suffocating as the story progresses. People often say that this is one of Lovecraft's slower stories, and it is, but I think it pays off towards the ending. This is something that you really have to take your time with. I found myself getting more freaked out as I slowly panned over the huge landscapes throughout the story. As I soaked in the details, I felt very paranoid and small in the scheme of things. The art perfectly conveys that existential terror that Lovecraft went for. The star of the show here is the environment. One of Lovecraft's staples of his writing is going about queer architecture or impossible geometry, and Tanabe really goes to town on these things. It reminds me of a lot of the environments in Blame. There is just so much detail and scope to gloss over it, it makes you feel insane just looking at it. The artwork is just gorgeous, and honestly, you need to look at some of these panels. Tanabe's art is also different from a lot of manga as it's more realistic, and reminds me more of American comic book styles than Japanese ones. The way he's perfectly able to capture the madness of the creatures and the environments is honestly astonishing. While not the scariest thing that I've read, it left me with a sinking feeling in my gut long after. Lovecraft is famous for the quote, "The oldest and strongest emotion in mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown." The guy really cut to the bone on what makes horror so scary. His sensibilities combined with Tanabe's art are a match made in heaven. I feel like Tanabe really understands Lovecraft, and that's what you need to make a really good adaptation in the first place. This might be one of the greatest adaptations that I've ever read. If you're looking to get into Lovecraft, this might be the way to go.